Hello, welcome to episode 147 of Dissonant Waves. Dominic is here, that's me. Trix is here, that's you. And Ritz is here, that's also you.
Yes.
And Trix
Yeah,
is.
hello. I'm shutting my door because my partner has decided to blast TikTok very loud, and I do not want it to get into the recording.
Last thing we need is a copyright strike from that.
Yeah.
We'll add some Subway Surfers, will be fine.
Yes, and
I
so.
just put my phone in mute so that it won't vibrate.
Anyway, we have a number of things to talk about this week. Trix, you chose Joy Division's Unknown Pleasures and New Order's Power, Corruption, and Lies, making sure we listen to Blue Monday and The Beach. Ritz, you chose Dust's
Yeah.
EP, etc., Luca Brasi's The World Don't Owe You Anything, and you made me watch the live show that you were at, and then the Online
Yep.
Friends Unlimited Blade Works EP. Meanwhile, I chose the new split from 40 Feet to Go and Miss Sueños Sonde to Adiós, Place Twigs on the Dead, as well as the music of Samuel Barber as played by the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra with Sylvia McNair and Yoel Levi. Anyone have anything they want to...
That's a long list. Where do we want to start? What do we think is a good starting point for this?
I mean, Joy Division New Order, I guess, is a whole topic we can get into.
Yeah.
Well, Trix, you chose the albums. I mean, I'm they're very unknown albums, so I think you're gonna have to really explain this one.
Yeah, they're the t-shirt. The t-shirts are actually albums.
Oh
So
fuck!
you guys know.
Yeah, I didn't know that actually.
And these are those albums.
Yeah.
Oh,
And Joy Division was formed in '78, I want to say, maybe a little earlier, with Ian Curtis as the frontman and Peter Hook and the rest of the gang as instrumentation. And then after Curtis killed himself in 1980, the band reformed under Joy Division.
under New Order.
Yes, my bad. I have just woken up.
They reformed as New Order and started releasing albums under New Order in a different direction.
Yeah.
Yes, so I think Joy Division formed in '76. Ian Curtis, that version of the band was around for about 4 years. They had an EP, a couple albums, and then after Ian Curtis's passing, a number of albums as
You cannot forget the single Level Tear Us Apart.
Level Tear Us Apart, of course. This band, whatever incarnation, very notorious for having their best songs as singles. They might be a part of the album,
Yes.
kind of, maybe, sometimes, or not. As in the case of Blue Monday, which was sometimes included in Power, Corruption, and Lies, but also sometimes not, depending on where in the world you were, what version you were listening to, and what format.
It mostly came down to format, because if it just wouldn't fit on a 12-inch record with everything else.
Right.
So it was mostly just on like the cassettes and.
Yeah. But,
You ever remember how Joy Division randomly had a song in Tony Hawk's Underground 2 that was one of their earlier tracks that sounds completely nothing like what we know Joy Division for?
Yeah.
well, a lot of the Joy Division sound is partially a credit to the producer, whose name I'm gonna look up real quickly here, who took their aggressive live style playing and made it a little more sparse. Martin Hannett, and did a lot of like play with noise and weird shit like that of like people eating chips and whatnot and making weird sounds. It's one of those things where the producer kind of just did what he wanted to do because these guys were all in like their early 20s. Ian Curtis died at 23.
Hmm.
And of course, they all sound like they're not anywhere near. They're much older. Ian Curtis, you would expect him like from his voice, he sounds like he's in his 30s. But no,
Yeah.
it's interesting, kind of seeing the you see the shirts, kind of the story a little bit. And I've heard some of the tracks, but listening to it in full, it's both very interesting to know that this came out in '79, Unknown Pleasures,
Hmm.
and how much it sounds like an '80s thing, and how much it kind of predicted what the '80s would bring, whether that's The
Yeah.
Cure, The Smiths, or just like more synth based stuff in general, and then New Order especially takes that off and goes fucking wild with it.
Yeah.
I mean, how do we kind of start talking about this? This is one of the tricks picking the classic album picks again.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes I feel like I have to do it because nobody else really ever picks classic album.
Yeah,
You're
that
gonna have
is
to
true.
excuse me. I have to mute for a second because my cat's being a shit.
Good old Monty.
I mean, I have picked
I mean,
classic
the thing
albums
that
before, but yeah.
the thing that gets me about this album as well is just the way that it's mixed. It's very the vocals are front and center because they feel like they're the most like cleanly mixed instrument on this whole album.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense in there, it feels. I wouldn't call it shoegazy, but it feels kind of it's got that kind of lo-fi fuzz that happens with the instrumentation, with the way that it's cleaned out.
No, I get
And
that.
and Ian Curtis is not it's not the most accessible or softest singer around this time. So this is basically what alternative was before the name.
Yeah, it was.
But I mean, like Bernard Sumner or whoever was singing for New Orders, also. I mean, that also was not exactly an accessible vocal sound either.
Mm.
Like Bernard Sumner's voice, I think is probably shakier than Ian's at this point. Something like "We All Stand," definitely like there's passion, there's power there, but like there's a little bit of a harshness to that voice. I will say.
Mm.
Like the whole band seemed to be centered
Yeah.
around Ian is the guy. We want Ian's the voice, and then Ian's no longer there. We're gonna continue on, and someone else just has to try take up the mantle, do your thing.
Yes.
And, there's a lot of talk about
I
that
think
too.
I think I remember seeing as well. Wasn't like the writing style for Joy Division was basically be Ian Curtis would get the with the lyrics first before they actually had any of the instrumentation or anything like that as well. It was basically be once they've kind of gotten like the demo or something done for it. Like if you ever listen to one of the King Gizzard demo albums, you'll hear that they basically just do a riff for 3 minutes, stuff like that. I don't know exactly how Joy Division did it, but I'm going to assume it's very similar to that. It'll basically be like, hey, yeah, this fits with the lyrics written, and that'll be. I mean, obviously a lot more to that, but that'd be the quick summary of how the songwriting was. I believe I read somewhere that's how it's done.
It seemed like their approach to lyrics were very. They didn't really super care, or at least that's kind of the way Ian Curtis portrayed it. And then they kind of had the realization of like oh, we could have seen this coming had we actually bothered to write the lyrics down and listen to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had kind of control over all of that because I think they were more focused on doing the music, like you were saying. So they just left him to fill the void, to fill the gap where he wanted. Which
I mean, the first lyric of this whole album is I've been waiting for a man to come, for a guy to come and take me by the hand, I believe, isn't it?
yeah,
Yep.
So I keep thinking it's man because man rhymes with hand, but it's guy, isn't it?
yeah, they
Guide, maybe?
Maybe it's guy, yeah. That goes to show how little thought I do as well to the lyrics. Which is just a shame, because Aaron Curtis is actually, when you go and read the lyrics, a pretty good lyricist, albeit quite obviously dark lyricist
Yes.
for the time. I mean, we know now exactly what Ian Curtis was going through, and unfortunately the outcome of it. But I'm going to naturally assume back when this came out, and I mean I don't think this was obviously a flop when it came out, but it was no Michael Jackson Thriller when it came out.
no. I mean, it was on a record label that was kind of an indie label, right? So it was more of how well can it break through, and then something like with what Ian Curtis does in the end that mythologizes it and takes, you know, any recognition they had to a much higher extreme, especially following Love Will Tear Us Apart.
Mm.
So,
Love Will Tear Us Apart. Just listening back to that song and then listening to this album, it feels like two completely different bands. Love Will Tear Us Apart is such a clean, polished tune.
right.
This album is anything but.
Yeah, this is the big experiment, right? Of like, what do we want it to sound like?
Yeah.
And I know that some of the members of the band were very unhappy with how the album was mixed, and Closer as well, the second one. And then there's that kind of thing of like, well, we view the band as this, then the band's being portrayed as something else. And so there's that curious divide, right? Like you're saying that the earlier track sounds different, right? Would you say it would sound more harsh, more intense?
Yeah, it just sonic wise, yeah. It's. I mean, you even go back to what I was talking about, like with Warsaw, the song that was one originally what their band name was, or their second band name. I believe it was Stiff Kittens first, and then Warsaw. But then, yeah, the actual song talking about the actual track for Warsaw, the ones in Funk 2, is it's oddly a punk tune, but it has still a lot of the post punk that, I mean, Joy Division basically helped. I wouldn't say create, but they definitely became kind of grandfather of the genre.
But it seemed like kind of talking about that, like if the album had not been mixed this way, this album could have sounded like that very easily. Because they wanted that more aggressive sound, the band members, but in the end they let their producer do what he wanted. And that Joy Division sound was something that was created, it seems like, kind of in post, like not completely, I'm sure, but you let the guy do what he wants to do, and here he is creating a whole new sound. It's curious. If he hadn't done that, it'd be a very different story. You know, it'd be a very different trajectory.
And then we go on to the New Order album, Corruption, Pure, whatever.
Power Corruption.
Power, thank you very much. And that is, I mean, it's nearly a house album at times. It starts off definitely post-punky with that little bit of surf that you sometimes get in post-punk as well with Age of Consent. But then it completely changes genre around 586 as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we just get, I mean, there is a lot of, between, you know, the beach, Blue Monday itself, obviously, and some of the tracks on here, there is just a lot of Blue Monday in this album.
Yes, and apparently 586.
Blue Monday was actually kind of Blue Monday was kind of like based off 6.
Yeah, 586 was created for the factory had a nightclub, the Hacienda, that they created in like a track for the opening night, and it was like a 20-minute instrumental or something like that, and like 586 was like the Prime 586 was the title, and that was like a thing that they then cut down and kind of mixed into Blue Monday 586 on here, and I think Ultraviolence as well. And then the beach then stemmed from Blue Monday. So that one event created like half of the album, in a sense.
Yeah.
But there's just a lot of, I mean, I know we obviously got some similar sounds from earlier albums. I mean, we talked about the looping that was done live, but was still loops, we'll call it, at the start of the Talking Heads album. The fucking title's blanking me, but you know which one I'm on about.
Remain in Light or
Thank you, Remain in Light. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yeah.
The part where
and there is a lot of, well, there's just a lot of. That's why I'm saying like this almost feels like a house album. You can remember there's just times where we're getting these kind of like long intros or looping intros as we call them, or not even intros, sometimes just moments, and it's. Again, it's not a house album though, as a thing, but you can kind of see what I'm getting at, where it kind of predates this whole.
Well, the house movement definitely took inspiration from Blue Monday, and Blue Monday was big in the house scene.
Yeah,
there was a
when would we say house kind of like broke out as well? Probably 90s thing, wasn't it?
80s into the 90s,
maybe late 80s. Yeah,
there was a quote I was reading. I can't remember where I read it now. That someone was like, Yeah, people keep crediting like the Chicago scene as the kind of moment that house took off, but you think people really listen to the Chicago scene everywhere outside of like regional Chicago? No, it was New Order that did it.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a completely fucking different jump in sound going from Unknown Pleasures to this.
Very much.
Yeah, and it's mostly the same band.
Right, it's not entirely out of question. I feel like it's more of just
No.
it went in a direction versus staying in that Ian Curtis. It's still mostly a rock-ish album. It went into just something else. Like to think that Unknown Pleasure is 1979 in a way, and coming out after what the 70s were is still kind of crazy to think about. But kind of jilting over to this in a span of 3 years is also quite impressive.
Very much.
I'll be honest about the individual tracks though on these albums. I mean, outside of probably She's Lost Control, and I'm talking about the individual tracks, not the Blue Monday doesn't count because it's not technically part of the album. But it's the weird thing about it is that I would never really go back to the individual tracks on this. It's like you're listening to two basic experiments here. Is the weird thing.
Yeah, and I'm not someone who thinks that since they're impeccable that they're perfect either. So
no, I mean, a lot of people like to go when they find these types of artists and go like, "Oh yeah, they put out the best albums of all time." And I'm talking about people here. There are obviously people who grew up with these albums and stuff like that, who genuinely blown away because it dropped. They heard it when they dropped, and they understood exactly how powerful and stuff that they were in the sound. That obviously makes sense and stuff like that. But I think there are some people who go back to it and just feel like they have to give it a perfect album because it's a 10 out of 10. But sometimes, legitimately, on Unknown Pleasures, the mixing is just a bit too rough. Let's say that just because it's an experiment that it always means it's a good thing. I mean, it's definitely done a lot, and artists have definitely evolved and made some fantastic piece of works since, now that we know that the rules can be broken. I mean, we'll somehow compare it to the fucking Shags, where, if they didn't put out an album as batshit insane as they did, we might not have gotten some of the best avant-garde artists of our time.
right,
yeah.
And the thing too is
and these are still good albums as well. That's the thing.
But like, listen to something like New Order now, like Power, Corruption, and Lies. We have the 40 years of synth that has come since then. We didn't listen to it in context, so the meaning of some things has changed for us. Like, to me, Your Silent Face sounds weird because it sounds like a Van Halen song and like a sports song. And I only think that because of the way that synth has been tied to like sports music and has been tied to like those like cheaper like inspirational sounds like Jump or something like that. So it's distracting to me because it's like, this sounds like it's meant to be inspirational and meant to be like in a basketball movie or something like that. But no, of course it's not.
I would love to join.
You broke up there. What was
I would love to see a New Order or Joy Division.
Joy Division song like a sports movie. I'm assuming that's what you said.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the final play. They need to get to the end zone. 3 seconds on the clock. Yeah, I can see that.
I do have kind of a story about hearing Age of Consent in an unexpected place.
I know the story, but please tell it.
Go on.
I told the story already?
To me, you have. I don't know if you.
Doesn't matter, please. Yeah.
Well, I was listening to a podcast about Jeffrey Epstein. And it was used as interstitial. It was used as interstitial music, and it took me like 15 minutes to realize what the song was.
That is, yeah, I think you told me that, but that is funny. That is funny.
Although I don't think I've expanded on this lore. So I've listened to more of the podcast, and it turns out that the guy who runs it is actually like good friends with one of the drummers from the OCs.
Oh.
Interesting. Okay.
The connections go further.
Yes.
That's the OC's Joy Division connection we never knew that we needed.
Indeed.
The one thing I want to just randomly point out as well is about the song Shadow Play, which my brother will not shut up about how the Killers have done a cover of it. And we saw the Killers last year when they were touring Australia, and we didn't manage to catch the extra show that they did in Sydney, which happened after the show that we caught them at. So you have to, it was like not the same, so it wasn't at the same venue, like 2 different nights thing. It was the same night after the show, and apparently they performed their cover of Shadow Play there as well.
Yeah.
And that would have been cool to see.
Yeah.
And they did it for some documentary or something, I believe.
Yeah, I think they did for a documentary about Joy Division and New Order.
Yeah.
And I know they
Let me search that up before I just.
They were introduced to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame this year, I believe, as one act. So
Yeah,
it wasn't for the documentary. It was for the biographical film Control.
Yeah. So actually, brief story on that. I had a college professor who, she taught script writing, and her big claim to fame is that she wrote a draft of Control. She wasn't credited or anything, but that was her big claim to fame. And it was a situation where I liked her as a person, but her advice on how to write things and how to package a screenplay fucking irked me to no end. She had a very specific viewpoint on how that had to be done, and if you did not adhere to her viewpoint, she did not like it. That's
sounds about right.
My brief little thing about the movie Control. That is a movie I have resisted watching, mostly because she apparently had a hand in writing it. But on the bright side, Power, Corruption, and Lies' art is not only common on T-shirts and hoodies and sweaters, it's also a stamp.
Yes.
It's such an iconic album. The British government said, you know what? Make it a stamp. It's already also a work of art created by somebody else. But no, we're going to remember it as the New Order cover.
It's Johnny Cash's cover of Hurt.
Yeah. It is the
stamp form.
The painting A Basket of Roses by Henry Fatin Latour. No one remembers that.
I love how the cassette art for Power, Corruption, and Lies looks like it was made on like a photocopier.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, it's just it's just the artwork smaller, center of the card, and with just like a sans serif text saying New Order, Power, Corruption, Lies top.
Oh, interesting.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at the one on the on Discogs. It is kind of that's an interesting cassette tape cover.
Oh yeah, it's cool. That is its own vibe in a way.
Yeah,
is like the whole thing with
It is.
The whole thing with the cover is that there's the colors on it. That there's like a chroma key of some sort that if you decode it, it says New Order, Power, Corruption, and Lies.
Yes, it's also on Blue Monster too.
But this cassette just says it, and it's like a zoomed in one. See, it's a little fuzzier. Everything is a little fuzzier.
Yes.
Shall we go into favorites and least favorites now, and then move on? Because we've kind of been trapped on this for a while.
I mean, they're classics.
Favorites.
Give it some time, but yes.
Yeah. I mean, favorites of Power, Corruption, and Lies, including the bonus singles, because it makes it easier. I mean, Age of Consent is great. I do like the experimentation of 586. It is kind of cool, but I prefer Blue Monday by far. And then going on that, my least favorite is The Beach, because it just adds nothing.
I'll actually completely agree with that.
Yeah, Age of Consent's great. Yep. Yeah, you're pretty much right. Blue Monday, of course, is a classic.
And then for Joy Division, favorites is Disorder, She's Lost Control, and Shadow Play. Least favorite? I don't know. I don't really hate any songs or anything like that. We'll just go random and we'll go say something like Insight. Also, on the disc I have, it has 2 songs before Disorder, Digital and Glass. I just find that funny.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I will agree mostly. I think Disorder is great. She's Lost Control is wonderful. I also quite like New Dawn Fades. There's a little riff in there that I quite like. Yeah, and something like Insight or Day of the Lord. It's probably my least favorite.
Disorder. She's lost control. Favorites are
What?
And least favorite is?
no least favorites.
Okay.
Got it.
Uh,
All right.
Dominic, what's the next one we're doing?
Let's talk more about classical music. Let's go down to the music of Samuel Barber. From classic to classical.
Indeed. I would like to preface this that I could not find the exact version of music.
Oh, you should have let me know. I would have
I
given you
think
the files.
I found versions of the songs. I don't think they were by the exact orchestra, but I listened to it. If that makes.
I mean, if you've watched enough movies, you've listened to it.
I guess my thing is I picked this specific version for the specific versions that they did.
Yeah.
Because
I think if you sent me the files, I wouldn't be able to access them anyways because the phone is so old that I have no storage on.
Fair enough. But that's fine. You had to do what you had to do. But yes, Samuel Barber.
Yeah.
Famous 20th century classic modernist American composer. Most famous piece is the Adagio for strings. Other pieces include the essays for orchestra that he did, a couple different operas like Vanessa and more other stuff. Other famous. He did the overture for School for Scandal, which was his first big piece. There's a excerpt here from Knoxville, Summer of 1915, which is an opera. This covers a decent amount of his career and life. Not the third essay for orchestra, unfortunately. That was his last big published piece. But there's still quite a bit.
Yes. His Adagio for strings is often cited as one of the saddest works ever written.
Which I guess I can understand.
To the point that it is... I mean, it's... Let's just preface by saying it is all beautiful pieces of work. A lot of it is you'll recognize it gets used in a lot of film and stuff like that. And Adagio for strings, overused to a point where it's basically a meme. It's like it's almost like using "Breathe Me" or what's the other one? The one that got used in that fucking I think it was like some shit where the girl shoots somebody and goes, "Ooh, what you say?" And I can't remember what the title's called.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, the one that's also in Dear Sister, the Dear Sister skit or something like that.
Yes, my friends and I.
Adagio for strings. Yeah, basically reviews like that. If there's a sad moment in a film, it gets played in there to make it, even more dramatic. And then even if it's not a good film, it's suddenly a really good soundtrack that you can just add in easily. But actually getting to listen to actually getting to listen to these songs, we'll call them, even though they're musical pieces, or however you're supposed to call it, if songs is not the proper term, without having any film or anything around it, becomes a whole different beast. I mean, I know not all of it's used for that, but I mean, a lot of classical movie music is used in that sake. But when you're just listening, not seeing any visuals, not seeing any bands playing, and listening into just straight up on Spotify is a completely different way, surprisingly, of listening to all this stuff. And honestly, that's probably what actually makes Adagio for strings not a meme, is just not having anything to make it a meme. And it's a really fucking good piece. That's the funny thing.
Yeah, it's one of those things that it was a hit earlier in his career. And I think he's even said, like, they keep going back to that thing, right? Like, he has a body of work that spans like 40, 50 years, but something he wrote in the 30s is one of the things that captures the audience's imagination. I mean, he was one of those big, important composers. I hadn't really heard of him very much, though, until, like, I was in college. So when I had heard, like I said, his first essay for orchestra is really what drew me in. And so hearing all of that and being like, oh, I don't really know American composers or anything. This is really cool. And finding out, he was gay,
the problem with composers I was gonna say the problem with composers and learning them is that most people these days don't study, or composers aren't as popular in the public eye as they were a long time ago, very, very long time ago.
Yes.
So for a lot of people in our generation, if you know a composer or you're into classical music, you're just completely in a different scene. You're basically more underground than the rest of us.
Yes. Like this somewhat related. Fairly recently, someone tried to create an AI that write its own Bach pieces. And I don't know if you guys know this, but Bach basically wrote every Bach piece imaginable, like every possible permutation. So there's no fucking point to the AI.
Oh wow!
Because the dude wrote like 2,000 pieces, and also fathered like 30.
Fuck, the Bach box set is gonna cost so much.
Yes.
And some of those things, I'm sure that like, not everything was composed and like performed by the time he died either. Like that seems to be a sticking point: is how many pieces were actually done.
Yeah, I have a feeling most of he was an organist daily life for churches and a lot of his pieces were for.
Here's something I don't fucking get: how come Bach has apparently 2023 albums?
Because modern orchestras will cover it.
Man, I can't wait for the new Johann Sebastian Bach album. You know, it's not even just one. There's like 2 so far. There's the 3rd. Let's go down. There's the 4th. There's the 5th. There's the 6th. This person's doing. Bach is fucking more prolific than King Gizzard at this point.
Oh yeah. But I mean, you know.
Yeah.
I've heard of Cole Porter. I've heard of Glenn Miller. I've heard of Philip Glass. I've heard of, you know, a number of composers that were around in the 20th century. So, I guess it was a shock to me that like Samuel Barber could also exist. I've heard of Maurice Ravel even, so that you know this other guy can exist and have his music be as big as it is. But I hadn't heard of him, so and I was naturally drawn to him in a way that I wasn't with the others, I guess.
And yeah, I can get that.
I need to stress this out just a bit more. Hold on. I'm going to show a picture of just how far down I've scrolled. And you're going to see exactly what I mean by, holy crap, there is a lot of fucking Bach albums in 2023. This doesn't even cover the full screen, but you can see how fucking far down I am here. That is probably around 6/8 of the screen. Scroll down.
Yeah.
And it's only going to get worse. And we're still on the 2023 Bach. This is actually crazy how much we over... Like, this is probably like fucking 40 albums at least that I've scrolled through. That's all apparently this year that's come out. That's actually fucking insane. And
how many of them have toccata and fugue, though? That's the real question.
Well, what's actually surprising is that a lot of these will still at least get enough to get counted on Spotify. So, you know, it's not like fucking millions per altar or anything like that. And a lot of these are, yeah, as you're saying, just people covering Bach albums and stuff like that. You know, that really is. But that's fucking insane.
I'm sure most of those plays are from the algorithm, from like the radio algorithm.
Yeah, my question is how many people are actively listening to classical, especially classical albums, versus like a song or two from a composer? Like, if you look at the,
I'm sure it's stores trying to do shopping music. I mean, who the fuck listens to meditation music in their own time? You know what my meditation is? It's
beer and a cigarette.
Back in the day, it was chop suey.
But I mean, like this album that I linked to specifically on Spotify, it's each track is at like 2,000 listeners, I think, somewhere around there. And that's an album that's been around since like '92 compared to like the modern releases we're seeing. Fucking.
Why weren't fuckers listening to Spotify in 1992?
obviously it wasn't around then, but like I'm curious how the classical market does in the streaming age. How does that play into things? Does it give them more exposure? Is it just a relic?
No. You wanna know? This is currently Samuel Barber's top 10 on Spotify for streams.
Sure.
Number 10 is Adagio for Strings, Op 11. Number 9 is Sure on This Shining Night, Op 13. 8 is Barber's Summer Music. 7 is Barber's Adagio for Strings. 6 is Agnes D. 5 is Barber Adagio for Strings, Op 11. 4 is Adagio for Strings. 3 is Barber semicolon Adagio for Strings. 2 is Adagio for Strings, Op 11. And 1 is Barber semicolon Adagio for Strings. The fact that there's anything else but Adagio for Strings surprises me.
You know what's funny?
Yeah.
Agnus Dei is the choral version of Adagio for Strings.
I would believe that.
He recontextualized it as a choral piece because he was apparently a triple prodigy in piano, voice, and composition.
So
Wow.
two of the top 10 aren't Adagio for Strings. It's the best work. I'm not gonna fucking kid and be pretentious and say I like the other stuff more, but the other stuff is still really good.
I'm curious, what other tracks stood out to you two?
I can't remember it by name, but there was another one which I swear was being used in fucking movies as well because it was very familiar. And at least the moments of it were. And I think it might have been the first one on there, but I could be fucking wrong. Don't ask me to do it by name. I mostly was just
I couldn't tell you
with
names
this.
either. Yeah, this I had this on while I played
Played what?
Minesweeper.
I just imagine you playing Minesweeper, fucking listening to the Knoxville Opera.
Mm.
I mean, I fucking love Minesweeper. I will listen to anything while playing it. So
I had this playing while I was making dinner, and my roommate was like, "Is that the Adagio for strings?" I'm like, yes, it is. It's a whole album, Samuel Barber. But I guess I will be that asshole that says no. The first essay for orchestras really does it for me. Adagio for strings is very good. It's probably my second favorite on here. But like, the first essay is a complete work. That tells a story. It's very dramatic and cinematic. It's bombastic at times. It's quiet at others. It has a beginning, middle, and end.
So Samuel Barber was the original Mr. Bombastic.
The Adagio is the second movement of a larger piece, and so it comes and goes, and it has a lot of good points to it, but it's not the complete work. It is not the complete thing.
I'm just gonna say, did you know that Shaggy actually did a full cover album called "Come Fly with Me," which is a whole like "Fly Me to the Moon" cover album?
I did not.
No.
I thought you were gonna say Shaggy did a whole Samuel Barber cover album.
It's produced.
That would be awesome.
No. That's what my joke I was getting at. But this album is produced. The one I'm on, "Come Fly with Me," is produced by Sting.
Oh.
It's funny. It's just an album. I haven't actually listened to it. I think it's a covers album. I'm just searching the whole thing of it. But yeah, it was like Frank Sinatra stuff. But my dad found it and was like, "You got to listen to this," and I still haven't.
Fair.
It took me a while, but I got my father to listen to the T-Pain cover of War Pigs.
Oh yeah, how was that?
Which was actually not that bad. That cover.
No, it's really good.
Yeah.
I also want to talk briefly about the Knoxville track, the summer of 1915, Op 24, and that it's very weird to hear opera in English.
Yes, English opera is always.
Oh my god, is that really real?
That is real. That is a real album.
Come fly with me.
I'm away next week. You want me to just pick this and play it, so you have to cover it? You ready to cover Shaggy? Nah, actually, we'll hold on to it because I want to cover it as well. Actually,
that's fair. We have a whole thing planned for you when you're gone anyway.
Fair enough.
But the Knoxville track is cool. It's like if you look at the if you listen to the lyrics and like listen to the opera, it's very much the most like place setting fucking like lackadaisical summer social gathering family bullshit you'll ever hear of just like the singer is literally just describing like there's cars going by and there's people and here's my family and there's my mother and my father and there's this artist who lives at home and my sister is a musician and she lives at home and it's just that's all the lyrics are and it's the most like casual fucking thing.
Hmm.
That's what most operas are. You're just not used to it because they're mostly in Italian.
That's fair. But I was just struck by like, yeah, this sounds really nice, and she's literally just singing about like the scene and like what it looks like.
Like you know how there's the joke of how every death scene in an opera is like 15 minutes long, right?
Yeah,
It, it's very much just a description of a lot of description. In opera.
and yeah, I guess that's totally fair. But to hear it in another language, maybe that's just me being ignorant American. I don't know what they're really saying, so it just sounds nice. And you assume a lot of
Yeah,
important things are happening. But-
That's fuck. What's that French pop punk that became a hit because no one could understand the lyrics and it's actual just gibberish and to points where I don't even think he was speaking actual French sometimes.
I have no idea.
I'll go search it up.
I do know
It
that
is an
there's.
absolute classic.
I do know that there was an Italian song that got very popular. That was complete gibberish, but it was like replicating what English sounded like to Italian.
yeah,
It's
I've heard of that.
the song's Sa Plain Poem Ra by Plastic Bertrand, which had a chorus that was just ooh, ooh, and it was actual just fucking gibberish. The whole thing. So I don't know, I gotta get the lyrics up because there was an episode of Spicks and Specks where they actually divulged to these fucking lyrics. When they translated it to the English translation, it's wham bam, my cat Splash is rolling around on my bed. He swallowed his tongue as he drank all my whiskey. As for me, I've hardly slept. I felt empty and reprimanded. I had to sleep in the gutter, where I had a flash of inspiration. There's a part where I swear he's supposed to talk about today's not the day that the sky will fall down around my ears or that I will have to go without a drink.
Hmm.
You know what's really wild?
Lyrics that mean absolutely the fucking nothing. It was a hit here. It's funny.
So that "Come Fly with Me" album you linked to that came out last year.
Yep.
Wow.
I I need to listen to this later. That seems like I'm sorry. I'm just still on about this fucking album. This seems like a meme. It's real.
The album art makes it even better. The album art makes it so much better. He looks just so happy, man. I love it. The dude finally admitted it was him, and now look at him. Happy in his own shell.
That's good for Shaggy.
Good for Shaggy.
Wasn't.
Yeah.
No, wait, hold on. I need to go. This is the greatest verse of that say Plain Pouring Raw song I was on about. Okay, let's go. That babe was such a bitch. What a vibration. Coming on the doormat. Filed down, ruined, empty, but happy. You are the king of the divan. She says to me in passing, I am the king of the divan.
Amazing.
That was that was an absolute hit here because no one could understand the fucking lyrics, so we just thought it was actually more important than it was.
Sounds about right.
Yep, love it.
One last thing I do want to highlight before we move on is about the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra itself. That little factoid I posted, in that they had they had the person who was the most tenured orchestra member ever, who started with the orchestra in 1945, and February 4th, 1945, Jane Little debuted at the age of 16 as a double bassist, and she performed with the ASO until her death in May 15th of 2016 at 87. a few hours after collapsing during a concert. It was a 71-year run.
Fucking
Yeah.
hell.
Naturally, of course, she is on the recording that I originally had offered up. So that's quite impressive.
I will have to seek it out when I can.
Yeah, I'm sure there's probably a YouTube link somewhere. I'd be surprised if it wasn't posted by somebody.
I searched and I could not find.
It's interesting. There's usually someone that covers every little CD release ever. You know, like the time I'll cover Taylor Made at some point. But yeah.
Yeah.
Would we do favorites, least favorites?
I don't really have a least favorite on this. I don't think I could actually give anything. Favorite, I am a basic bitch. Adagio for strings. I don't know if anyone's ever said that line.
Yeah. I will also agree, no least favorites, and I am also sort of basic, adagio for strings, although I will say the essay I quite enjoy.
I will ask this too for you two. Was this a boring pick? Was this a good idea?
Oh
This
no,
was
this
fun.
is great actually. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
this is really really lovely to listen to. I don't think I would go out of my way to constantly listen to classical, but this was.
It makes
I don't
me
know, this
think
is really
about wanting
nice.
to do some impression.
The impressions? Do you want to do some Ronnie Dangerfield?
Impressionist.
Fair enough.
The opposite of expression.
I've got one request here, Dominic.
Yeah.
Can we make the album art just that come forward with me, but we edited the face to be that classic picture of Trick smiling?
And figure out a way to work in the New Order color code.
You know, I was thinking of doing that. I didn't. I wasn't sure if that was insensitive to replace a man of color like Shaggy with Trix's face, but just because you asked
It's
for
Shaggy. I
I'll
think
do it.
we'll under.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be too insensitive. I think it's pretty obvious we're having a joke on the album art and not the man's color.
If someone
Yeah.
if someone can post the picture of Trix smiling in the chat so it's more easily findable for me, I would appreciate it at some point. But that
Until
being said,
then, though, what are we gonna cover now?
well, my favorites and least favorites. I will agree. Adagio for
That's right.
strings is great. But I do prefer the first essay for orchestra. I think that piece is fucking beautiful. And when I first heard it in the car radio on the classical station, I literally had to just stop and listen. It was fantastic. My least favorite is probably the school
Had
for
to stop the
Scandal.
car to dance at his tune.
My least favorite is the School for Scandal overture. It's just, you know, it just doesn't really grab me very much. I know it was his first big piece, and so I don't know. Maybe something has to do with the age of it, but yeah, it doesn't really grab me super much. But let's move on over. We'll get to Fifth Wave emo in a minute, but we should cover the Luca Brasi album while we're getting there.
Yeah, it's slowly getting. We're doing this plus the live show, which I know Trix didn't watch any, so she's going to be completely missing the references that we do here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're covering the new Luca Brasi album, despite the fact that when we did Luca Brasi a long time ago, you two were not warm to it. You found it to be a very boring album, in which I remember Dominic said to me, "You should have broke up to a better album," which
Oh
still
yeah.
still the funniest roast you've ever done on me.
Yeah.
And I will be honest, I don't think this album's going to change either of your minds on Luca Brasi.
It has.
I think this is more an interesting pick for the sake, and we'll get to your take later, Dominic, in a second. What we're basically going into now is seeing Luca Brasi as a band 7 years later, with a lot of life events that have happened recently, and how they exist with it. Now you can say your take, Dominic.
Number one, I do think I like this album more than the other one. But number two, ultimately, it does not totally change my perspective on them.
That is about it as expected. I personally prefer just the songs on if this is all we're going to be. I think it's an album which you two are still a little bit hard on. I think you just need to relax and realize that it is an album that it is, but it also isn't a mind blowing album or anything like that. So I'm not gonna die on a hill saying this is what you gotta listen to. This is what you gotta listen to.
The other thing is that I require a Jeff Rosenstock mashup.
Of what?
Future is dumb. The world doesn't owe you. The world don't owe you anything. They're so close.
Ah.
Yeah, that's all.
I'm trying to think how you could do it. Yeah, I get your joke. I'm trying to think if there's actually a way of doing.
Like that was honestly the most distracting thing is how similar they are. Is it's like
it just in titles, you mean?
Yeah.
Song wise, Jeff Rosenstock is so much harder than Luca Brasi
yeah.
on all of these songs, but
Yeah.
it's also a different vibe. I think in this we are hearing what is an attempt at a more mature sound. I don't think there's too much difference in the sound though to really say it's a lot more matured. I think there is a lot less anger coming out in the lyrics, but I do think we still get some well-written songs in here. I think it is definitely more interesting than the last effort, even though the last effort does still have some great writings on this. It's more just trying to compare what they've done on this album compared to what they've done on the last one. Obviously, if we go into a lot of the research of Luca Brasi, you see the kind of the difference in how the band exists, yet it's still the same band in a way. I believe it's all four members from is if this is all we're going to be is still there in this band. I think it's mostly just been the four members the whole time since around. Yeah, looking at it, they haven't had a band member change since 2013.
Sure, yeah.
And so, and by that they'd only released one album on there, so they've basically been the same band on through. I think you posted an article which mentioned that I can't remember which member of it is, but one of them recently had a child as well, so now literally all of them are dads.
Yeah.
Which I think by the time we did the last album, none of them
Luca
were.
dads.
Luca
The unfortunate news. The unfortunate news that
Yeah.
came out a bit ago is Tyler Richardson, the lead singer of the band. His son unfortunately got diagnosed with cancer quite recently, which has been a big thing that a lot of the fans have definitely bounded together and helped with the GoFundMe. One thing that about this band, they have a dedicated fan base. It's not huge, but it's dedicated. Like I'm a part of the Tassie posting on Facebook. It is not two users who are kind of like Luca Brasi. No, it is full of people who will constantly talk about their love of Luca Brasi.
Yeah, worth mentioning. They're probably one of Tasmania's most famous bands at the moment.
Not a high bar, unfortunately, but
leading the way for more Tassie artists to break through.
As I drink my water here.
Also, the member that had the child the most recently was Busby. Thomas Busby.
Thank you.
But these are guys that are in their 30s now, and like they have songs like Party Scene, which are just kind of about like that don't really do it for me anymore. I need different things in life now. Which has that maturity.
Which I get. Yeah. Honestly, though, Party Scene I think is the weakest song off this, and it was the lead single going into all of it. And I don't even think it sucks or anything. I think they write just some better songs in here, or at least try some cooler moments in here. Like literally right afterwards is Sunny. I think is the highlight of the album with that with the outro and going under the "Oh you were." It's it's very simple. It's not groundbreaking or anything like that, but it's one of those cases of it's really just executed right. So it leads to one of the better outros that's coming to here. It's one of the softer songs as well. But this is, you go back to their early stuff and what we're here now. This is quite softer of a sound, which is why it kind of now makes sense that like when I talk about the live show that you had to watch, that they've basically done an acoustic live show, which is just it's weird to think that what was basically a Tassie punk band is now a bunch of dads doing acoustic live shows.
Yeah, it was a fun show to watch and listen to, just from a perspective of like, it seemed more informal and like kind of just the crowd was there enjoying them and having a good time, and so there's a lot more interplay. It felt like, like there's more talking and more like talking over the songs in a sense, and band or the audience was a little more in control of what was being played and how things were going. It was just fun.
Mm.
The one thing I will say before we really get into the live show more is it's interesting in that the world don't owe you anything is such a specific viewpoint, such a specific like philosophy of like the way they make it sound is kind of that like pull yourself up by your bootstraps mentality that I don't really agree with personally. But when Jeff Rosenstock says it, it sounds a lot cooler because it's more in the context of like anxiety and like kind of reorient yourself with things, and so what if this, so what if that, the world doesn't owe you anything. But here, I don't know, the way that it's presented here, it stands out more as like, man, that's real bleak. I don't know.
I think they do probably have a similar viewpoint to Jeff Rosenstock, but I understand what you mean. And I think it there's a lot of context that I guess is kind of needed, and that's what we're talking about is like the whole recent things, and them coming out trying to be a band from Tassie, like still being a successful band. I mean, they had a festival called Till Wheels Fall Off, that they recently have had to have the last installment of. Oh, obviously, I talked. Unfortunately, it is something that's happened. It's not probably going to be completely due to after the writing of this album, but it's still something that's happened. Is Tyler's son being diagnosed with cancer? Just a lot of anxiety with, I mean, Australian politics and full stop. Got the whole yes or no vote that's going through at the moment, which is a lot of contention around as well. I think if you know just a lot of the context of what's happening with musicians and festivals and just Luca Brasi in general and Australia, you kind of get all that context, but ultimately, in the end, you are still listening to the album as if it has no context, and that's how you should listen to any album. So I do get the kind of whole, it doesn't probably present itself, and you are kind of, sometimes some things are better with context, but it doesn't mean that it should be better with context.
Sure.
I will say I do like that they've tried a proper opening on this one. They did it on Stay, where they had just a kind of small minute opening, but this does just feel like, because The World Don't Owe You Anything was a single to this album, so this is basically just the entry ramps are a quick little. It's almost like a reprise that's done before it, Flight Facility style.
It's funny too.
It's a cute little opening.
The last track is called "A Place to Begin." Talk about a cute little opening. The cute little opening that you think it would be called is now the cute little closer.
Anyway, shall we get into what was probably the better highlight of all of it, which was the live show?
Yeah.
While you do that, I'm gonna try and find my photo for the Shaggy photo.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Today
is gonna be the day that I'm gonna come back to you.
I'm gonna bring a gun. Just go. Do that every time. Someone in my uni did that once, and I do that joke every time. It was a really fun night, actually. I mean, they weren't the only act. Michaela Pasterfield was the opening act. She played a couple songs. I don't think she even has much on Spotify, which is the crazy thing. I'm gonna actually check that out whilst I'm remembering all this stuff. But yeah, it was all the members of the band were there. One of them was just in the crowd. Basically, it was the drummer. It was I think it was Danny. I think it was the drummer. Was in the crowd the whole time because they don't play guitar or anything acoustic, so they don't have nothing.
Sure. Yeah.
It feels like at a moment it was a scripted set list, but it feels like for some of that there were just these little moments in there as well that were very unscripted and just happened with a bunch of the covers that randomly are in there. I mean, there's the Fuel cover that happens in there. There's the
Sweet Home Alabama.
there's the Oasis cover of. I was talking about the full one, so the Champagne,
sure.
Supernova, and Shimmer by Fuel, which during the cover of Shimmer, he tries to invite a member of the crowd, the specific one that we're on about, up onto the stage because he was singing along now and he knew all the lyrics and they know each other. And then he realized very quickly, and you'll see that in the set where he kind of backs him off, there's no stairs to get on the stage, so they kind of just back off that idea.
Fair. And I think now you're kind of using this to set up the guy you're going to cover next time that you're back. But...
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. It's funny doing it this way.
But
do you not like a good seg?
I do like a good seg, but no.
But there is there's genuinely a lot in this as well. Besides that happens in there as well. I mean,
intimacy.
The fact where we get all the whole.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was doing a little joke with you earlier as well that I was comparing this, especially with the quality of the recording. It's not as good as it. Jeff Magnum's live singing is something else, but we're comparing it to like a live at Jittery Joe's.
Yeah, it's one of those shows that you'd like to be at because it seems like the wall kind of comes down between the audience and the musician. Like when you go to like a Petite League show, or you go to I go to a Grief Eater show, you know, there isn't that kind of audience interplay, and I would love to hear more of that. Right? I think there's a lot to be said for like having, you know, fans in the crowd and having that ease of just like, hey, I know you're all here because you like the music, right? And so let's vibe. Let's do
It's basically
stuff.
I mean,
and that's
it happened
right?
at the Vanguard, and the Vanguard capacity is I think 150 people. Yeah, it can hold up to 150 people. It didn't sell out,
Sure.
So I think there were probably just over 100 people there. It was not a large scale gig by any means, but basically everyone who was there was was there to see Luca Brasi. It wasn't just this is the thing that's happening tonight. It was like
Right.
I specifically want to see Luca Brasi. There were people who traveled from Wollongong, which to people in Sydney will understand that it's far. That is like a 2-hour train ride.
That's fair. And you know
for what is a 1-hour show.
When I went to see,
you're longer on the train there.
When I went to see Lime Cordiale, there was a little bit more of that audience interplay because obviously people were there to see Lime Cordiale. But even then, you know, that was a show that was largely on the rails, right? Not that this is off the rails, but there was a little bit of audience interplay. There was a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but they kind of just went through it, right? There was no sudden change in anything, and I think that's the fun thing about this is that the little acoustic moments, the acoustic intimacy. I wonder how they feel.
I mean, we had,
but it's a fantastic thing to have for people to see.
Oh, we're talking about like those kind of interplays as well. We're talking about the Tip of My Tongue cover where everybody's shouting out all these little other covers that happen as well. Where we're singing on to verses. I mean, you get the lyrics to Wonderwall, Damn It happens in there, Sweet Home Alabama, In the End happens in there as well. It literally ends with somebody singing Damn It again, and Tyler just screams out, we already did that fucking one.
Yeah.
And then at Champagne Supernova when he sings Where Were You When We Were Getting High, and his band member just yells out at a Linkin
Park concert, yeah.
I think it's just like little funny moments. Yeah, the Linkin Park concert. I think there's the 1 minute and 30-second cover of Teenage Dirtbag that happens in there, and then they say it would have been cooler if you sung Come Listen to Luca Brasi with me instead of Iron Maiden.
Yeah.
Like, covers were the highlight. Just really fun. They felt they were definitely planned, some of them, but they felt kind of just out of the blue to a point, and having that fan interaction with one of them was definitely a massive fucking highlight of the night.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But they still had some very good moments of their actual songs as well. Their actual their songs. People shouting along to Clothes I Slept In and actually singing too much to fuck up and they fuck up the band's rhythm.
Yeah. Or people sing along to Airplane or
Anything Near Conviction would be the other one that you probably the one at the end.
Well, there's more at the beginning too, because there was like the guy that was recording and said like singing along for a couple tracks.
Yeah.
And then there was definitely like it's interesting hearing what the Australian accent sounds like when you can't sing. How it's
that's
flat.
Most of the fucking crowd there.
it's flat, but you still have that spice to it.
I'm going to try and also get the full set list off by heart, and not including the covers here, and not in order, obviously. But I'm pretty sure they play Entry Ramp. Well, Don't Owe You Anything is 100% the start. They play Party Scene, and Sunny. I don't think they actually played Two Forever.
don't
They might have played that, but I can't. Yasarian, which was a split done with Slowly Slowly. Ben Stewart from Slowly Slowly co-produced the album, by the way, so that's a nice little link that just happened there. A Text Her, which is a Tyler Richardson solo song that was played, and he literally complains about the person who wrote it down as Texter, so he fucks it up when he first says it.
Classic.
So it's kind of like, what's text? Yeah, what's text? Oh, text. Let It Slip and Clothes I Slept In gets played. And Tangled Content and This Selfish Love gets played. Tangled and Content is one of the more underrated songs in my opinion. It's a very simple kind of long love song. I think it's just got some nice little lyrics in it, but that's neither here nor there. And then yeah, Airplane and Anything Near Conviction. They actually have quite a bit of a coverage on what is a small set. This is an hour long basically.
Yeah, it definitely went by pretty fast.
Mm.
And was this the show you were
I think it
talking
was
about?
Thursday night.
This is the show you were talking about where they ended it and the music came up and then they came back? Because it didn't sound like it.
No. That was that wasn't Luca Brasi. That was Fiddlehead did that, and Spanish Love Songs did that.
Ah, gotcha.
Yeah. No, this ended after Anything Near Conviction.
Yeah.
And then they went in the crowd and had beers with everyone. Pretty fun. Last night, recommend it. 9 out of 10.
Tricks, how you doing over there?
I am searching.
Got it.
That's fair enough. I mean, in the end, I think I like the album. It's not. I don't think it's even better than If This Is All Going to Be. Personally, I think that one is still just such a moment for me in time as well. That get into a lot of love of it. That's just how it is. I mean, you joke about the whole should have broke up to a better album, but I mean, it's the album that soundtracked that period of my life. It's gonna be special. It's just that's how it works for a lot of people.
Absolutely.
And this one, I think there's some great songwriting on here and there's some catchy moments, but in the end, it's so much better to hear these tracks in an intimate environment as well. That's just like kind of it's a completely different vibe, admittedly. So you can kind of watch them, listen to them anyway. But I think that live service is so much more special compared. I mean, the album's still good. It's not a bad album by any means. It's just we've listened to a lot. I don't think it really compares to some of the best that we've done. But there's always going to be albums like that anyway.
Yeah, and for me, like I said, Luca Brasi still sounds like they do, and this album I think is more interesting to me, but it's sure that band.
In the end.
Yeah.
In the end.
Yeah, look, probably if they didn't do the live show, probably would not have covered this. I'm be full honest, but it was a good live show.
That's fair, and there's a lot of other like bigger acts that we've covered before that we're not even covering this year, so it's a little surprising almost that we're hitting this. We didn't even cover the last one that they did.
The last one, it had some important themes on it, but in the end, it wasn't as interesting sonically, and that's how I feel with it. I don't think they've done enough evolution sonically that I'm going like, this is the big album to listen to.
Yeah.
But still being the Luca Brasi fan that I am, if you're a Luca Brasi fan, you're going to like this album still anyway. They don't disappoint their fans. Their fans get exactly what they want.
Fair enough. We're ready to go into favorites and least favorites for the album. I'm gonna just say
favorites are
I'm gonna say Blunder and leave it to you.
Favorites. Well, don't know you anything, Sonny. I do like Concussion actually. That's got another one of those catchy choruses. Least favorite is Party Scene.
I guess I can see that. I guess Party Scene stands out a little bit more to me, but even then, I don't know how I feel about it compared to everything else. It's all just kind of there. But yes. So moving on then, let's talk about something that I did quite like that you picked, Dust, etc.
This I got lucky enough to see Dust open at the Newcastle Off the Rails Festival. That one had both Private Function and Amel and the Sniffers as the headliners. After Mark Kane also dropped out, so they had no international, but who cares, because Amel and the Sniffers and Private Function are worth going to anyway. This was the opening act, and Private Function were probably the best band of that night. Amel and the Sniffers are also really good, but this band is fucking crazy live, and
Oh, I'm sure.
they're just they're basically just a bunch of nerds. They're like the black country of Australia, I would call them. Or at least of Newcastle.
Yeah, this is a kind
There
of like
was
the bigger boot EP. There's only about 5 tracks really, but they kind of space it out with some intros and interludes and things. And my God, did they really use that time to kind of set dress the album a little bit? Where the fucking saxophone on this album, holy shit!
they do the saxophone live as well, baby. It's fantastic.
Ooh, where they get the sax in there is so good. But
they're doing a free show in Wollongong on the Friday, and I'm so hoping that I can actually get down there and watch it.
Yeah, we haven't really visited our voicemail rankings in a long time, where we used to talk about how good, how useful the voicemails the various artists would include in their stuff is.
They've got a couple voicemails on this, don't they? There's one on one.
Yeah, there's like 3. There's multiple. There's more than 3 actually.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the thing that they hang the EP on a little bit. Is they begin it with the answering machine, being played out, and then they kind of go back to it here and there. But
yeah, there's a lot of the post punk that we've covered that we've heard in this, and then there's some pretty harsh, loud vocals. I wouldn't even call them too harsh. Really. They're just very shouty in a way. I think it's actually split vocals is the other way as well. But like, there's some black MIDI in this. There's some black country. There's some idols which we haven't covered in this as well. But it doesn't sound like a rip-off of any of them. It feels like we've got like a naturally inspired artist.
yes.
Yeah.
How did you feel about Dust, Tricks?
I quite enjoyed it. I don't remember any details, but I just kind of remember enjoying it. This was one of the ones that I had playing at work over the speaker, and it went over pretty well too.
Cool.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
It's quite a complex, layered production that we're getting on this whole record as well. We've covered a lot of things which have been quite minimalistic, or you get one instrument you're really covering, but here we're getting a lot of instruments at once, but we're still getting these standout moments and stuff like that. As you say, when the saxophone comes in, there's some absolutely fucking crazy moments on here, but it is quite a very layered production that we're getting in this.
And then it's like you hear like when the gutter kicks in. I mean, just this song about like class warfare and nothing's wrong with the middle class, nothing's wrong with the lower class and all that stuff happening. It's like, oh, they're going for it. They're very confident. They're very into what they're doing. It's rare that you hear a debut like this that goes for like the political talk, that goes for like the saxophone and kind of the ambientness that they're going for, but also that really like harsh, cool alternative sound. There's a bit of like psychedelic King Gizzard in something like Alternator. There's War 52. I think has a little more of like the Ian Curtis-esque voice in it and stuff like that. But there's a lot happening that makes it a dynamic EP.
It's crazy to get a band this young, and it looks like the Spotify is incorrectly added in a 2016 record, but I'm pretty sure that is not the same band in there.
There are like 28 bands named Dust, so
yeah, it's not an uncommon name.
Yeah,
on here, it's very just well produced. I mean, this is an independent band. Apparently, according to this, it's self-published. The copyright is at 2023 Dust. If I go into the show credits, does it show who's produced it? No, it doesn't. So from what I can tell, they've probably produced their own thing.
So actually, they were working with Wade Kieran, who did a lot of Hockey Dad stuff.
Okay. How do you pronounce how do you spell the name? Sorry, Wade,
and then Keighan.
Oh, Wade. Yeah. It's like Wave. I thought you said Wade Kieran. That's a bit more. It looks like he's been around since like 2003 here. We've got to look into all this stuff in here. Yeah, that makes sense. Done work with Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds.
Yeah, and like I think Canine Records had a hand in putting this out. I don't know if it was just like the vinyl stuff or whatever, but this is a vinyl you can get over here. You can get it through like Target and Barnes and Noble and shit. So it's definitely hit like the mainstream distribution networks. And this is a band
Yeah.
that like has very little presence. Like they have the EP and they have a couple singles and that's it.
Mm.
The music industry seems to see
And it's
a
not
lot
like
of promise.
they're not even unapproachable people or anything like that. Like literally, I approached them after the gig because they were walking near me. And I just said like, "Hey, nice show" and stuff, and then they just actually stopped and talked for a while. They gave their names and everything. That's the weird thing for them to not be so present, but they're very social people.
Yeah, and I had trouble finding their names for a little while just in their stuff because they didn't super give it out.
Mm.
I had to go to their song credits to find it, and then as I was reading articles, that was popping up more and more. But a lot of the places you'd think to find it, like Discogs or Bandcamp or whatever, they didn't bother listing credits.
I mean, they've also got on a big. They are opening a lot for artists at the moment. One of the big shows that they're lined up for is they're going to be at the Block Party Interpol opening act. You know, those
Sure.
are Ontulo bands, and I'm trying to find it, but I'm trying to find a time that they are on at Yours and Ours Festival, which is a large festival in Wollongong. So not only are they doing that free show beforehand, which they're the headline act for. But if you go for the set times on, yeah, I mean they're not playing at the largest stage, but they don't have the. I mean they're still on a pretty late time slot. They're playing the 8:35 time slot at
Not bad.
the small stage. Yeah, so you know there's going to be a lot of people that go to see them over Hilltop Hoods and Bakar because I mean the people will be waiting. The people who want to see Descendants probably don't want to see Bakar.
And I think Fantano gave them a good review too.
On a single song, I believe. Didn't do the full EP, you coward. But yes, I believe it was on Ward.
Interesting.
This absolutely fucking fucks. Fantastic little EP.
Yeah, it kind of coming out of nowhere. Curious about the other singles they released. Maybe we'll have to revisit those later on. But
I mean, I won't say anything. We'll figure out at the end of the year. But this is probably in a good contention for EP of the year.
It's definitely really up there. It's definitely pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go Dust, baby, go.
Favorites for me, I probably had to say Interludes as a huge highlight. I like The Gutter and I like Joy Guilt. No real least favorite to speak of.
Yeah, no least favorite. Alternate is probably my favorite, but I do
also
like
great.
452 and Joy Guilt. Oh, I need an alternative.
Gonna just say Blender just because of the circumstances I listened under.
Fair enough.
That's alright.
All right, let's jump over to Online Friends, Unlimited Blade Works. This is not the Face State Night TV show or movie. This is just an album also called Unlimited Blade Works.
I am not going to lie. I picked this because they followed us on Twitter, and I will 100% try to get as much access we can to interview. So, Online Friends, if you are listening to this episode after we published it, and you want to have an interview, please. Now that I've done this plug, this is actually a good album. I'm not absolutely in love with it,
Twitter,
not absolutely in love with it, but it's got some fantastic moments on it.
Yeah,
I like
DM us
some
on
of the
Twitter.
production and what they're going for and the vibe.
So the funny thing is, to me, this album is exactly what I think people think emo is when they picture it in their head. This is about
Yeah, that's
I can see that.
The funny thing is that like this is a great example of like doing it and like having that like all the classic tropes of like the acoustic stuff and like the love songs and the breakup stuff and all that, and just doing it well enough that it all works well enough on its own.
Mm.
And then you just say how much you fucking hate Scotland somewhere in there.
That's just reasonable.
Yeah.
There was a fuck, I gotta find it. There was a two sentence horror post, which if you've never seen 2-sentence horror shit post, or it's 2-sentence 2 horror now it's called. It's fucking funny because people write the dumbest shit in that yeah. The first sentence. My wife to see Stonehenge this summer. I realized we'd have to go to the United Kingdom.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
But I think there's a really good they have the emo vocals down. They have some nice like instrumentation down. I think there are a couple of the songs kind of lose the rhythm a little bit. And there's a little bit of like, could they have re-recorded that? Could they have touched it up? Maybe. But there's not sloppiness necessarily, but just that kind of rawness, that kind of just it is what it is. Works well for like authenticity and all of that.
Just looking at the connections that they have as well, or just like the links and stuff, it makes me feared that we have to cover that Feels Real EP at some point this year, which I'm scared to listen to because I've heard Kittens for Breakfast, which is just a lot of meowing to start off and a lot of crazy stuff in a minute.
What are you referring to?
Fifth, Feels Real. They feature on their EP. Online Friends feature on it. Have you not seen Covered in Scridding, Mouthful of Poppy Chow?
Oh,
if that title doesn't,
yeah, I see it now. Okay, this
if people want to know if people want to know what fifth wave emo is, you've got 146 more episodes to watch before this one. But yeah,
yeah,
Covered in Squidding, Mouthful of Puppy Chow. Jesus Christ! All right,
and it's weird. It's a thing that exists. Yeah.
Yeah, this might
but
be
this
something we
is
have to cover.
I think you're right in what you're going. Like, this is what people think emo. Or this sounds like what people think emo is. I think if you wanted to say what is an album, you would go like, what is a natural evolution eventually of fourth wave, fifth wave, or if you had to put it somewhere. And this isn't even really in the proper timeline for that, but we just say it if you listen to it in a boil the frog way. That would kind of be where this is at, because it's got a lot of those elements that fourth wave emo had, but it's also got a lot of elements of fifth wave. It sounds like a very transitional album.
Yes, for a relatively new album at that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's fifth wave. It's unabashed. It's unashamedly fifth wave. It's not even that chaotic. It's very actually accessible is the weird thing. I mean, the vocals are very rough, but so is most emo artists. So
I mean, like something like Somewhere Elsewhere, you just have that moment of just like, you are an artist, I am nothing, kind of song there, and like that's a very like typical like emo song kind of like songwriting thing, especially with like an earlier emo wave where it's very self-deprecating and very much about how much they love the other person.
I've had the start of Flower Child stuck in my head for like the past 2 days, and that's probably the most, if we're gonna say, stereotypical.
That's true too. There's no.
Let's not confuse
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, let's not confuse stereotypical as an insult here. I think this is one that is just unabashedly or unashamedly emo, in a sense of, yeah, as you said, it just works.
Yeah, and like there's no big moment where there's like a sample to open a song like Catching Techniques has, but there is the one that they do have on Watching Clocks, which is like a weird, I don't know, it sounds like a cartoon or something. I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah.
But so they have everything. Every trope you can think of is here somewhere, it seems like.
Have you seen the credits on this album?
I think you posted a little bit of them before.
Yeah, so the credits, it's Kane Jux, vocals, guitar, electronics, lyrics, Amelia C, vocals, lyrics on tracks 3 and 4, B June, bass, Natalie Ivy, drums, cello, guitar tech, Joey, nothing, emotional support, Donkey Kong bongos.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I relate to Joey. And then all the thank yous
On you, Joey.
are also fit similarly great in that they do shout out Depth Pop Records, Real Fake Emo, Hatsune Miku, Sonnet Shoe is here. So, I mean, the other performers
they have the custom CDs as well, which I haven't bought any of them, but they have the CD which is made out of the cardboard for an Arizona iced tea.
It's fantastic. It's a great thing.
Yeah.
I will mention for the CDs, I'm pretty sure it's like it's a very small run. Yeah, it's there for those
30 in total.
and it's numbered out of 10. It says,
Yep.
and there's
For the
5
Arizona,
left.
it's 10. For the original, the normal version, there's a limit. There's a
20.
version out of 20.
And
I
there's
would
8.
have bought it, but it's actually not that bad if I do the shopping. If I do the shipping, it's
So there's 13 left.
$10.96 the shipping.
You should do it.
What happens if I? Oh, I'm checking what the end cost would be for me for that. Oh, I could get both versions of this, including shipping, for $30 Australian.
Not bad.
I think you should do it. Make it part of the episode. Just order it now.
Yeah.
That's I don't know. That's
Like when I bought
$30.
Lousy with Sylvia Breyer on vinyl, episode 3.
Yeah.
It's tempting, but I'd rather one of you two get it because the shipping won't fuck you. And my girlfriend's looking at me like, "Don't buy more CDs."
Fine. I will.
They're making me buy CDs, sweetie.
I am buying
Yay!
the Arizona box right now.
Beautiful.
Hell
Someone else
yeah.
bought it.
It's $10 for me. I'm going to the thing. Hold on. Gonna log in. Something.
But yeah, the moral of the story is to all the underground fifth rate emo artists out there, if you just follow us on Twitter, we will listen to your shit because we like being even lazier to find artists. It's just works for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, as a heads
we
up,
have no shame.
I gotta bail in 5 minutes. Go get ready for work.
Cool. Did you like the split EP?
It was okay. I don't really have anything specific to say about it.
That's probably how I feel about it as well, to be honest. I mean, not on a different page there. Now Trix has said everything.
Oh, I just used my
About
bank point.
the album.
I used my bank points to pay for this. I just want you to know that.
Oh fuck! What the fuck is bank points? It's 4 remaining now.
The cash back that I get from using my card.
Trix, what's your ranking for the week? Just give your ranking for the week right now.
Let's go with the World Don't Know You Anything at the bottom. Place Twigs on the Dead. Sam Barber, Unlimited Blade Works, etc., etc. Joy Division.
Okay.
Cool.
And what are you picking?
Now that we've
next
done
time?
that, we can go everything else guilt free. Oh, that's right.
For the week after next.
For after our Green Day extravaganza, when Ritz is back, we have 2 weeks of that. So in 3 weeks, what are you picking?
Yes. I'm going to be doing 2 albums, as is the theme. I'm going to be doing The Flock of Seagulls, self-titled.
Oh my god.
Because I felt like...
Felt like what?
And I'm going to be doing Dead Man's Bones, self-titled.
So Blanca Seagull
Well, that was a
self-titled,
complete cut out. Dead Man's Bones.
Yes.
Okay. Alrighty.
Beautiful.
Well, Trix, you have fun getting ready for work.
I will have a good one.
You too. Bye.
So
anyway,
the online friends, as we go back onto this, since we took a bit of a break on it.
I use my cash.
It's a relatively short album.
Yep.
It's a relatively short album. It's only 27 minutes. It's 5 minutes longer than the Dust EP. I mean, it's called an album. Is it an album? Is it an EP? I'd call it an album.
They call it an EP, but
okay, they call it an EP. Okay, it's an EP then.
It's EP2. It's their first EP came out in 2019.
Wow, what a time to be alive.
But the interesting thing is this apparently was written in spring to fall of 2020 and recorded from fall 2020 to winter 2023. I'm curious what that over 3-year span entailed.
Yeah, surely they got more recordings in there. I'd like to see
what hasn't been created, because they haven't exactly been unprolific, and there's a lot of singles that aren't on here as well.
Yeah.
Actually, I haven't listened to a lot of their stuff. I mean, they have a song called Kanye Midwest, so I need to get that a listen.
And they seem to have, they have their catchphrases down. They have their little sayings down. Like their thing is one word, all lowercase, since 2019, so you know how to spell their name.
Mm.
And then for Unlimited Blade Works, and after they list the tracks on Bandcamp, they say, "A pretty picture in a game ain't a person; it's a knife into your heart."
Still more meaning than Cardinal Heart.
Jesus Christ! Yeah, online friends, if you're listening, go listen to Cardinal Heart and tell us how you feel about it.
I mean, if I could say if there's one thing on this album or EP which is not the highlight, the lyrics are sometimes a bit just too on the nose, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, they're very blunt.
And you know, it's fine, but sometimes the lyrics are also like not actually saying anything. They're very blunt without doing much.
Yeah, Chemistry in Motion, I feel like, kind of falls into that, the whole track star thing. Like, yeah.
Well, one of the lyrics is on Somewhere Elsewhere. It's if something kills me, I'd rather it be cancer than this distance.
Yeah.
I mean, it's right after a line about smoking cigarettes. Admittedly, you know, it's that, but it's still a bit like, yeah. It's
than the tendrils we blow towards the sea.
It's not the worst fucking lines that would be out there. I'm sure there's in some lines of these, there's some kind of inside stuff that's a bit personal or something. So it's not mocking it like we're mocking Motionless in White, but it is kind of a description of what I mean by like lyrics on this album. They are a bit too on the nose for emo, rather than it be these large, imaginative lines that we've gotten in some other albums.
Sure. When you are doing emo, right, you kind of got to go for the feeling that you have, right? And sometimes going for the feeling is just saying it, right? And that's kind of like what a song like Scotland's about, right? Like, you're leaving for Scotland, I don't know what to do, you know, I'm losing you, I fucking hate Scotland, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's how
I hate
feel.
Scotland, dear. Break! I hate Scotland, that's the lyrics.
Yeah.
That's what's written on the Bandcamp. Hey, Ian, I don't think it's a case of what are the songs about as being like too like, oh, come on, we've heard this or anything before. It's more just how they're presented lyric-wise. I know I don't always go and talk about the lyrics. There's a lot of times where I feel like it's such second nature to the album that I don't mind. But in albums like this, they are very much an important part of the album. It doesn't. They're not terrible in the case of they're so bad you're gonna cringe out your eyeballs. But there are a certain like, you know, that there could be just some better writings to some of these things.
Sure.
It's a title in which I reckon that's where the big improvement lies in this band. Although the whole Bandcamp is just a bunch of trick stuff that says, "Can we get a fuck Scotland? Fuck Scotland." It's pretty funny. That's that background image.
Yeah. This
overall though,
this is interesting. I personally
nice.
like this more than Ellie Kemper, I will say.
I had to think about that. Ellie Kemper's got the fucking what's the song on that? Let me get the fucking song.
Ellie Kemper is a wider song palette, like a sound palette.
The prison at the bottom of the crater, the one with the Asian glow.
Yes.
That song is better than. It's still my favorite out of all these two albums, I'd say safely. But yeah, I'll have to think about that one. I think I prefer Ellie Kemper.
That might change for me if once, you know, I kind of have some distance from listening to this a number of times. But I think I jived with this one a little bit more. But yeah, no. Favorites, least favorites. Somewhere Elsewhere is cool. I like Scotland for what it is. Sign Language is a great opening, I think, for their sound. Least favorite's probably Chemistry in Motion.
Favorites, Flower Child, because that just got stuck in my head, and I do like Somewhere Elsewhere. I think I agree. Chemistry in Motion's probably the least favorite.
All right. Then last but not least, for me at least, the split EP, Place Twigs on the Dead.
Oh no, this is probably the least for me.
I was really hoping that this would be something you'd like, because I was really impressed by the sueños Sunday to adiós. I believe they're from Argentina.
It's not terrible. It's just I think everything else is better this week, and that's including Luca Brasi. I don't know. Just neither of these acts I felt really grabbed me with the short little samples that I got on here. And it didn't feel like the organized chaos that I love hearing in this scene. It just felt like chaos, and that's alright, I guess. But I wasn't so into it.
I mean,
Kind of came out in one ear, out the other, because I wasn't able to really find those moments in which I went. And that's what I love about organized chaos, is finding those moments where you remember and they get stuck in your head, which causes you to go to the song again and love it, and you remember all these parts and go down that rabbit hole or trickle down that waterfall of loving the whole song. But in here, there was just no moments to really just care about. Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's how you feel. That I get it. I don't know. I mean, like for me, 40 Feet to Go, they seem fine. They're scrams. They're doing their thing. But to me, like I don't know. I felt like the guitars and just how much was getting packed into the shorter songs, unlike the Argentinian stuff was really, it was shorter, but it made a bigger impact for me. The vocals were more shrieky and distressed, and there was some like more of a metal influence, and it just felt a lot more built and put together. And it reminded me of the other South American artists we listened to recently for the Downfall of the Neon Youth split.
Yeah, I can't even pronounce it properly. I forget how to pronounce it, but you know what we both know what we're on about.
Yeah, like Mis Sueños is a band that has done a number of splits, done a number of collaborations and songs, and it's been around the scene for quite a bit. They did a split with the Civil War in France, for example. But I don't know. I felt like this would be the one. This would be an interesting one to cover because I just found myself being really interested in their songs from this little collection of tracks. 40 Feet to Go is another one that's been out there. Their earlier project, The Warmth That I Felt As I Crossed the Frozen Tracks, I'm Humming Your Song, came out earlier in the year, and that seems to be getting some attention.
You're basically soloing this one. Like I said, nothing could just stick in my head. It's just come out as just one ear, one the other, and I gave it a couple goes. It's just
That's just, I guess
sometimes
just
music do that.
It's just where I liked it more. You two, then that's fine. There's a lot to listen to, so it's only natural sometimes things get kind of lost in the shuffle. But I liked it, so that's kind of
fair enough.
The cover art's rather interesting, I will say. That dog on the
the cover art's fucking weird, but that's I love it.
Yeah.
And the schoolgirl and the dog.
Yeah. I like
Belinda and it's two artists, so that's not a good thing. That's my favorite sequence.
I like Mis Sueños Sunday to Adiós' tracks. I think Another Funeral by 40 Feet to Go is interesting with the crows and everything. My least favorite's probably the first track, which I don't even know how you pronounce that. That's just the crying.
That looks like crying. Yeah, it looks like that.
Yeah. All right.
Shall we get into rankings for the week?
Let's do it.
I'll start. Least favorites, Place Twigs on the Dead. Sorry. Second on that would it kind of has to just be The World Don't Owe You Anything. And I was thinking about it, but I'm going to place Samuel Barber ahead of it.
Okay.
Then I'll be putting Unlimited Blade Works. And this is where I'm probably going to piss off a lot of people, including the band that I put as number one itself. But it's not disrespecting the impact of these albums. It's just what I enjoy more. So I'm doing Power, Corruption on Lies, Unknown Pleasures, and number ones, etc., because it's basically what post-punk is now. And I know with Seinfeld Effect and the other ones are fantastic for the time, but we're looking at what it is now, and
Sure.
et cetera is better.
Yeah, no. For me, the bottom is The World Don't Owe You Anything. Then we're gonna do Place Twigs on the Dead. Then I will pick Unlimited Blade Works. Then I'm gonna pick Joy Division, Dust, and then Samuel Barber at the top.
Fair enough. You wanna mention what you're doing next week?
Oh, yeah.
I'll do my whole thing.
Yeah, so
In a
you're
second.
gonna be gone. We're gonna be doing a bit of Green Day catch up. We will have a special guest for these episodes, I believe. We're gonna be doing Uno Dos Tre, their 3 album and 1 year project. And I believe we're gonna fit in Quattro as well. There may be some other surprises, so stay tuned for that. But we're gonna come back in a few weeks with the whole group. And Ritz has some things that he's gonna pick.
Well, you want to pick your pick first?
Oh.
Is what I'm saying.
Sure, I can do that. I mean, my pick. I more or less said it before. It's the last of this year's Radiohead versus Muse stuff. We're gonna do Hail to the Thief versus the Resistance.
Man, that sounds illegal. I love it. So I teased a bit. Dominic knows exactly what I'm on about, and on there. But there was a certain person who gets a couple shout outs in that live show in in the Luca Brasi acoustic show, and that person also did the article that Dominic posted. It's a very well known person on the east coast of Australia, lives in Wollongong. Goes to basically, if you've gone to a gig of a band to see right now, or any of these cases, or just bands that he loves, you've probably seen the man. That's what's happened a while. And he used to have a solo project. We're not covering the full extent of this project, but we are covering near the start. I think it's more when the start actually gets interesting, the end of the solo, and then the one band album that we did. This band is called Nothing Rhymes with David. Most of the stuff is only on Bandcamp, so you're gonna have to download it, Dominic.
Okay.
But we will be doing the Equals EP, the Double Negative All the Way EP, Things That Work Out for People Like You album, and the Sky Lonely album. David, if you've listened to this and think I'm stalking you, I apologize, but probably should I?
I mean, this is the stuff that I do all the time,
So,
so I'm
we
glad
got-
someone else is doing it.
There is 3 weeks for us to cover this.
Yeah.
The main reason why I want to cover this is because the amount of rabbit holes that you can go up just searching what this man has covered, what this man has seen, just where this band has played. I reckon it will be a fun 3 weeks. It's interesting enough because, I mean, the most amount of plays any song has on Spotify, which is only on the album, is just a bit over 1,000.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a relatively unknown band, but you just go through a massive rabbit hole and searching. That's the reason I picked it. I think you'll have a fun 3 weeks here, Dominic.
All right. So that brings our next episode being 4 Things by Nothing Rhymes with David, the Double Negative All the Way EP, the Equals EP, the Things Work Out for People Like You album, and the Sky Lonely album. And Trix has picked Flock of Seagulls self-titled and Dead Man's Bones self-titled. I have picked Radiohead's Hail to the Thief and Muse's The Resistance. That'll be it for us this week.
It's going to be a long week.
Yeah, we have 3 weeks to cover all
Yeah,
this.
I've been riddling. You can catch me sometime. I'm going to bother doing the full plug
for
today.
kids again, whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
Dominic, YouTube, Games My Mom Found podcast, Twitter, all that stuff. Dissonant Waves .space, Dissonant Waves on YouTube and Twitter and Blue Sky, and buy our merch on our Redbubble store, and that's anything else that's important is gonna be linked into the description.
Have a good weekend, everyone.